Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Now, in the wake of Donald Trump's extraordinary presidential victory, in this special edition, we're asking, how will gender equality fare in Trump's America? During what was one of the ugliest campaigns that Americans had ever witnessed, for the first time, women's rights took front and centre stage. This, as a Republican candidate, came under fire for sexist comments while confronting allegations of sexual assault. Yet despite this, exit polls revealed that more than half of the white women who voted casted their ballot for Donald Trump. Now, here to discuss this with me is Nita Wiggins, an American journalist and now journalism academic based in Paris. From New York, Courtney Emerson, co-founder of All In Together, a non-profit campaign dedicated to mobilising American women to advocate for issues that they care about. And from Washington, Marisa Paul, a Republican strategist. Thanks to all of you for joining me. Now, let me start with you, Nita, with that amazing statistic that 52% of white women voted for a man whose attitudes have been described as being highly sexist and misogynist. Why, Nita? Why?
Why the white women voted for Donald Trump? For a lot of women voters in the United States, gender is not the number one issue. Women care about a lot of things. We American women have a lot that we want to talk about. In the campaign with the Democrats, the two Democratic male candidates wanted an increase of the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Mrs. Clinton had to be pushed to say $12 an hour, and eventually she said $15. And who works in fast food jobs, who works in minimum wage jobs? American women. And so those are just two of the ways that Mrs. Clinton did not speak to what women needed, white women or African American or any other women in the United States.
Courtney, the New York Daily News is suggesting white women be held responsible for Hillary Clinton's failure. Now, this is the very electorate that one expected to have voted for her. What went wrong?
Well, look, I think we have to look at the numbers, not just for white women, but also for women of color. So yes, it's true that over half of white women voted for Donald Trump. That was much higher for non-college educated white women, closer to 62%, and just over 50% for white women with college degrees. But 95% of African American women voted for Hillary Clinton, almost 70% of Latina women, of Asian American women. So I don't think it's true that Hillary Clinton isn't setting forth and suggesting policies that will improve the lives of women in the United States. Of course she did, and women turned out in droves. In fact, women were more likely to vote again than men in this election. 52% of the electorate were women, and that's something that's been true since 1980. Women have turned elections, and women does not just mean one thing in the United States, it means lots of things. So gender, certainly one of the prevailing identities, but race, level of education, also incredibly important, and we have to pay attention to the full picture here and not just get stuck on this one statistic.
Marisa, as a Republican strategist and as a woman, before the election, did you think that gender equality was a high priority issue?
I think it is in every election, and especially when you have, for the first time, for which we are fortunate, a woman leading her party and actually making a huge and true test for the presidency. I would concur with Nina, though, in that I think what you saw was a building suspicion in the population against the establishment and against archaic and traditional systems of governance, of economics, et cetera. And as Nina said, I think the economics of this is actually what propelled this. And when you look at the number of women who, young, old, and minority or white, who supported Bernie Sanders, you could see that frustration building. And I think that is actually that impulse to change and that desire for more economic liberty and equality is really what pushed this over far more than male or female.
Nita, so it's really what you are saying, it's a vote of anger.
It's a vote of anger, but it's a vote of disagreement over policy, okay? And from that, maybe the anger does come, because Mrs. Clinton was not really sure, at least in the minds of voters, what her policy was about the environment, and something as basic as the Dakota Access Pipeline, which is in the news in a lot of places right now. There are tribes, Native American tribes, that have gotten together to protest this, and it all connects to an environmental issue of global warming. And who is most affected by global warming? Women and girls around the world.
Let me at this point bring in Courtney. Hillary Clinton tried to capitalise on Trump's woman problem by branding him a bully with a 30-year history of demeaning, degrading and insulting behaviour towards women, but it's clear that that tactic failed to bring her votes.
Look, I think we're all sort of doing a postmortem and how this Hillary Clinton's focus on the fact that Donald Trump was a bully, certainly the leaked tapes, making incredibly disparaging remarks about women, and even some say condoning sexual assault, did not land in the way that they wanted it, that they needed it to, and that it should have, frankly. And I think also speaks to what both of the folks on the line have been saying this entire conversation. There was a bigger change, bigger issues happening for many women, especially women for whom their counties, their regions, their states have been left behind from a lot of the economic growth that we've seen on the coast. So we'll still be talking about this, figuring it out. I don't think any of us have a clear answer yet.
Marisa, some say America has just held a referendum on sexism, and that this result is sending out a very clear message, not only to Americans, but to the rest of the world, that it's okay to be sexist, that it's all right to sexually assault women.
If I may, I would that's an interesting way to put it. I think, as Courtney pointed out, that message, that idea did not resonate. I think what women were looking for were real answers, and real answers that were impacting their lives. Tapes, etc. It all came off as very paternalistic to say that we could not even consider Donald Trump, we could not even consider an alternative, and that you should know better than to vote for someone who has said these things. I think that rubbed a lot of people, including women, the wrong way, and made them actually even focus more. And for example, as we were talking about green jobs, that's the holy grail. We all wish we could have green jobs. But as in any climate change conversation, there's a direct conflict between growth and unfortunately, climate control. What we are seeing now is, for example, 12 million jobs in America are manufacturing. 27% of those jobs are held by women. And women would like to see that area grow and have more job opportunities, more opportunities to build and improve their families' lives. I think that was much more important than Hollywood access tapes or whatever Spotify likes to think of, a national referendum on sexual assault, which obviously American women and men do not support.
And I do have to say, though, that, to be fair to many, many American women, first of all, Hillary Clinton, we have to remember, did win the popular vote. That is a really important thing to be keeping in mind here. And for a lot of women, it was horrifying. The comments he made about women, the way he seems to be treating women, the fact that there are now double digits numbers of women coming forward accusing him of sexual assault, not just talking about it. This is something that is shocking and horrifying to a lot of us. And folks even like Bernie Sanders have come out and said, to the degree that Donald Trump is willing to work with us on improving the middle class, ensuring they have the resources they need to live the lives they want, we will work with you. But on the issues where you continue to be xenophobic, racist, sexist, we will oppose you at every step of the way. So I don't want to lose the thread that this was shocking, horrifying, and devastating for many women, that this was a big part of why they did not vote for Donald Trump.
I now want to turn our attention to women's rights under a Trump administration. Let's take a listen to what he had to say early on in the campaign about abortion.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
10 cents, 10 years,
I don't
what?
know. That I don't know. That
Why
I don't
not?
know. I don't know.
You take positions and everything else.
Frankly, I do take positions and everything else. It's a very complicated position.
Now, he walked back from that position afterwards, saying that women would not be punished, but he has said that he's wanting to overturn Roe versus Wade. That, of course, being the Supreme Court ruling that has protected abortion rights since 1973. Courtney, that is a massive step backwards in the eyes of many, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think one of the scariest things right now that Democrats or any woman on either side of the aisle that support the women's right to choose is very scared of this right now. Not just because he's said he would punish women, that he's said he would help dismantle Roe v. Wade, but because now with a with a Republican-controlled Senate, there is a very good chance that the Republican Senate will confirm one of the justices that Donald Trump has put forward.
Marisa, even if Roe versus Wade remains, abortion laws are likely to change because a bill which bans most abortions after 20 weeks, which was passed by the House in 2015 and later blocked in the Senate, Trump is dedicated, or he's saying that he's dedicated to signing that bill, and he's not going to face any opposition with a Republican-controlled Senate and House, is he?
I wouldn't think so, not on this issue. It's something that the idea of third-term abortion, which you've heard discussed in the third debate rather vehemently, is a touchstone in this country, and it offends a lot of people. How that is decided, what sort of legislation, and what the Supreme Court has to say about that eventually is something that we'll watch play out. But what I think you see and you can expect to see from a Trump administration is a stance that is more pro-family, and being pro-life doesn't end at birth. And when you see things like his push for paid maternity leave, incentivization for childcare at work, when you consider that nearly 2/3 of women who have children under the age of 6 work outside the home, this is not only just an important economic propellant for us, but it is also very key to women's rights to be able to flourish and to return to our economy and to our society and culture.
Nita, he has yet to release any policies on wage equality. What's your reaction to that?
When the Republican candidates, Mr. Trump included, did not propose an increase to the minimum wage, it was a blow to women who still earn more than 20 cents less an hour than men. And there is no movement, as far as I have seen with Mr. Trump, to increase the minimum wage, which would lift wages for women. Mr. Trump says we'll make America wealthy again, but he hasn't said how. So there is no clear information.
Marisa, do you think that the status of women is going to improve under a Trump administration?
I actually do. I know a lot of my Democratic counterparts would scoff at that idea. But I honestly think, for example, as we talk about minimum wage, wages have been going up in this country, and yet the economic pressures have almost increased in a correlated fashion. I think what we want to do is create more liberty for women in the workplace, in the home, and create those economic opportunities and the opportunities to be more engaged in the workplace, in our economy, and in policy. And I think you will see that in a Trump administration.
Courtney, do you have anything to say to that?
I do not think that the status of women will improve here in the United States or abroad under a Donald Trump presidency. I think we all have to do our best to ensure we don't go backwards. We don't see a backslide into some of the policies that have, oppressed and harnessed women's rights over the past 100 years. And on the point of the gender gap, yes, it's 80 cents to the dollar for white women. It's even lower for women of color. And I think, it's a very scary prospect to think about how that is going to continue and how women's rights will continue to be chipped away over the next 4 years. So we have a lot of work to do and a lot of advocacy and engagement that we'll need to see. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump has flip-flopped on many, many issues from his stances years ago as a private figure. I don't think we know exactly what we're going to see, but all of us are watching.
Okay, now finally and very quickly, let's just listen to what Hillary Clinton had to say. She thanked her supporters.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will, and hopefully sooner than we might think right now.
Okay, let me start with you, Nita. So when is America finally going to get its first female president?
Why not Elizabeth Warren, Senator Elizabeth Warren? It would have been so innovative if Hillary Clinton had selected Senator Warren as her vice president. Then we really would have seen a change in American politics. So I'm predicting Elizabeth Warren.
Courtney?
Well, look, it's been very interesting over the past 48 hours, the number of women who have reached out to me saying, what can I do? How can I get involved? How can I run? Organizations, some of our partner organizations like She Should Run and Running Start have been overwhelmed nominating women who should be running for office. So I think this has really lit a fire in a lot of the hearts of American women who might not have thought about running and now feel that it's an imperative. And, I think that it could be Elizabeth Warren in 2020, and we should all, look at that and think about what that might look like.
And Marisa?
I think we'll see a woman president, as Hillary suggested, sooner rather than later. If you look at the numbers in the Senate and in the governors and state and local, you see far more women being elected. And I think, as we all rise and as people become more engaged, I mean, who would have thought that someone like Donald Trump could have the audacity to run for president and then in fact win? There's nothing that isn't open and available to women who want to lead with smart policies and empathy for their fellow citizens.
And on that seemingly optimistic note, I'm going to thank all of my guests for joining me today. And that's it for now. And if you'd like to comment on what you've just seen, you can head to our Facebook page. It's France24 51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far, and please do keep those comments coming in. So until our next show, bye for now.